quick in and out.
Oh, really?
All right, I think we're gonna get started.
We changed the password, I got it all.
I can't see our camera
Luckily, I
guy.
still have everything up here.
He's very good. Thank you.
I made a bad mistake.
All right, notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield and the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, September 19th, 2017, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of this meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business to come properly before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, September 14th, 2017, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Dana, can we have a roll call?
Michael Beelan.
Here.
Mark Friedman. Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Robert Garrison. Chris Langhardt. Gretchen Oleg.
Here.
Peggy Oster.
Here.
Charles Ostroff.
Here.
Amy Root.
Here. Peggy, can you lead us in the flag salute, please?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. Michael, do you have an
I
announcement?
have one. This parenting event, all Westfield parents are invited to an information session on preventing and responding to child bullying and cyberbullying. The presentation will take place on Monday, October 2nd, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the high school auditorium. Parents of teens are especially encouraged to attend. National presenter John Halligan, whose son Ryan suffered from depression and died by suicide after being bullied, will provide parenting strategies in his presentation entitled, "If I Could Do It Over." The Parent Information event is sponsored by the Roosevelt and Edison Intermediate Schools. All Westfield parents and community members are invited. If you have any questions, please call the Roosevelt Intermediate School at, they don't have the area code, but 908-789-4560, or Edison at 908-789-4470.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles, do you have any?
Yes, I do. This is under the topic of senior citizens. The Westfield Public School District is once again providing a senior citizens golden pass to Westfield residents 65 years and older to attend many school-sponsored events for free. The pass will provide free admission to events that normally collect entrance fees, such as Westfield High School musicals, matinee performances of plays, and certain concerts. The pass will also be accepted at Westfield High School athletic events, with the exception of those organized by the county and the NJSIAA. Westfield residents 65 years and older can obtain the Golden Pass, about the size of a credit card, in the business office of the Westfield Board of Education, located on the first floor of 302 Elm Street. A list of popular scheduled events in the school calendar also will be provided. We welcome our senior citizens and thank them for their years of support. This is stated by Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Margaret Dolan. For more information on the program, please call 908-789-4414 or 908-789-4463. I think this is something that's very worthwhile. Many of the schools put on great events, and it's something that the citizens of this town, that our seniors who can take advantage of it, should.
Thanks. Brendan?
Yes. The Westfield International Award-winning Odyssey of the Mind will be starting off the school year with an information night for parents on Monday, September 25th at 7 p.m. at Edison Intermediate School. Please check the district calendar for more information.
Amy?
I've got two, so I'm going to take them in chronological order here. The first one pertains to hurricane relief. The Westfield Public Schools is taking action to help victims of Hurricane Harvey. The Kindness Club at Roosevelt Intermediate School raised $500 so far for Adopt a Classroom, a Hurricane Harvey relief fund. Roosevelt paired with 2 schools in the Houston area and thus far purchased school supplies for Coulter Elementary School in Houston. To continue their fundraising efforts, the Roosevelt Kindness Club will have a stand at the Westfield Fall Festival, known as Festifall, I believe, this Sunday, September 24th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So get there early. According to club advisors Christina Caprara and Julia Muirfield, with the money raised, the Roosevelt community will continue to purchase school supplies for the 2 Houston area schools. At Washington School, the Caring and Sharing team filled 28 backpacks with school supplies for the children of Houston. The backpacks have been mailed, along with 2 boxes of extra supplies for the teachers. Each backpack was filled to the brim, and at least one drawing or note of encouragement from a Washington student was inserted. And then, later in the week, there is also a special education roundtable on Tuesday, September 27th at 7:30 p.m., where Dr. Michael Weissman, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Pupil Services, and Andrea Lowe, the Special Education Supervisor for the district, and the Child Study team, are hosting a roundtable introductory discussion for parents. It will be held in the Edison Intermediate School in the library on the 2nd floor. The meeting is sponsored by the Parent Teacher Council Special Education Committee, together with the school district's Special Services Department. It's really a great way to put some faces to names. If anyone out there has a child who's receiving special services, it's really a good overview of how the department works and who's who and how they interact with each other. And it's also a really good way to network with other parents in the district who have kids in similar circumstances. So I'll be there as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, I have 2 announcements. The first one is in reference to one of our alumni and our former athletes at Westfield High School. We'd like to send congratulations to Westfield High School 2014 graduate and Blue Devil swimmer Caroline Baldwin, who won the gold medal in the 50-meter freestyle at the 2017 World University Games, representing the United States. Caroline is a senior and on the swim team at the University of North Carolina. Caroline also swam the anchor leg, freestyle leg, on the 400-meter medley relay team for the U.S. and earned a silver medal. I apologize. And I know Caroline has many records here for Westfield High School and continue to do amazing things down at University of North Carolina. And my favorite announcement, schools will be closed on September 21st and 22nd in observance of Rosh Hashanah.
Great, and our next Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 3rd at 7:30 p.m. at 302 Elm Street. The complete agenda will be available on Friday, September 29th on our website. Any announcements?
I do not.
All right, well then why don't we jump right in? Oh, well, I guess I should recognize the public for agenda items. Is there anyone who has anything on the agenda? Okay, we'll jump right into the superintendent's report.
All right, and tonight I have 2 superintendent reports, and the first one being report on the post-graduation plans of the Westfield High School class of 2017, and then the second report is a report on the district goals for the year. So first, Westfield High School class of 2017. The class of 2017, we had 422 seniors who received their diplomas. 1 senior had to complete some work over the summer in summer school, and they did. And to that student's credit, they were able to complete everything, and that's rather difficult to do, and I congratulate that student. With that, we had 99.3% of our seniors who were graduated in June, which is a wonderful thing. We really do strive for 100%. We try to work with every single child, but it was 99.3%. And out of the class of 2017, 95.5% are continuing their education. 91% of the graduates are attending 4-year colleges and universities. 3.8 are attending 2-year colleges. 0.7 are attending a variety of vocational, business, or other post-high school institutions. 0.9% went directly to employment. 0.4% are part of transition programs. That's generally students who are receiving special education services, and they're receiving additional transition to prepare them for their next phase of life. 0.9% join the military. 1.6% their future plans are unreported. The guidance office at the high school does quite an outreach to make sure we try to get everyone, but 1.6% we could not receive an answer as to what they're going to be doing. And 0.7% chose a gap year, and they plan to resume their studies after a gap year. We have the next slide gives us a list of the most popular universities. This list always has some repeaters from the previous year and also some changes. But you can see the trend is we have a number of students who are attending state universities and larger universities, and certainly some that are nearby. So, some changes again, but some similarities from year to year. Out of the 8 Ivy League universities, we have members of the class of 2017 in 5 of those Ivy League schools. And in total, we have members of the class of 2017 attending 148 different colleges and universities, which is a wonderful thing that we have such options in this country. They are in 33 states, and we have one who is out of country who is actually studying in France. So we certainly are thrilled that these students are off to a good start. We wish them their best in their plans now and going forward. And I look forward to hearing how the students are doing when they come home on breaks or come back to visit. So very proud of the students and wish them the best.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
On the military, just, that's exclusive of any of the military academies, right? So if someone went to one of the military academies, it's included in the universities and not necessarily going directly to the military?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. It's nothing,
It is.
Some
nothing
great
but
schools,
remarkable.
Some
It's-
great
yeah, it's-
schools on that list.
Mhm.
Yeah. And nothing we want to take for granted. That's a lot of hard work on the part of the students, on the part of the parents, et cetera. Sometimes we get used to high percentages, but we should never do that. A lot of work went into that, starting from when the students were young, so I'm very pleased with them.
Yeah, you got a .3 in there somewhere, right, Amy?
Yes. Large university out of state, yeah.
Okay.
All right, and now we have district goals. So back at the end of the school year, we had discussed goals that we would focus on as a school district, and we had come to agreement regarding that. All the goals come from the strategic plan that was established the year before. And over the summer, what we did was work on, okay, what are the steps we're going to develop to get to the goals that we want? And this is a review of the steps that are outlined for that. Some of the work listed has already begun, but this is the presentation of it. So the first one, we know that we are going to be transitioning to a new website platform by September 2018. We know that because the one we are using is being phased out, and because websites change. They're not the same as when we went to this website years ago. So we're first determining the information that is needed. Some of it is required by the state, for example, so pulling out those things that we know have to be on there. Also, items that we know either parents or staff members or students have told us is really helpful to have on there. So we start with that. We are reviewing sites from other districts. I know, for example, Michael gave us some suggestions of other sites from other districts that are helpful and are looking at what they have and how they have things formatted that might be better than what we're doing. We have a lot of existing committees in the district, and we are trying to utilize those resources to help us take a look and make suggestions as to what maybe we should change or include or add or stop. So we're hoping to gather input from the Board Technology Committee. I believe some of that started last Friday. The District Technology Committee, which is made up of administrators and teachers and technicians in the district, administrators in general, teachers in general, secretaries who have very specific needs for that, and the Parent-Teacher Council as well, that has representatives from all of our schools, so students from all ages. While we're doing all this, we're also researching which host providers work with K-12 school districts. And there really are not that many anymore. Some of the companies have, bought out other ones, and so there's not. There are certainly a few, but there are not dozens of them. So we'll be looking to see which seems to match our needs the best. And again, if people have suggestions because they have experience with different districts, or please let us know. If experience bad or good, we'd love to hear it so we can learn from it. Also, we'll be determining who's going to be responsible for updating and curating district and school websites. So the current system, now again, this is under a website platform that is several years old. We have hundreds of webmasters, if the truth be told, right? We have, every department has someone in the department who's in charge of the website. Every school has someone, teachers curate their own websites. We think that's going to be changing, so we need to determine who is going to be in charge of that, how many people is it, and how do we do a structure that's going to make sure that things are updated regularly and curated. Then we'll be selecting the best website provider based on our needs. And also, right now, all of our teachers have web pages as well, just like the schools and the departments in the district. We don't think that's going to be the same. We think now the teachers are going to be using different types of web pages that are specific for the students. Parents can also access it. So we think that's going to be a change. Not sure yet, but that's the way we see other districts moving and what at this point makes the most sense to us. Then the framework. Using the information we pull from looking at our observations of other websites and what we've learned in our own, what is the framework going to be, and what is the layout going to be. Whatever company we choose will have various templates, which one works the best for us. And then starting to create the website and working in Sandbox so we can see how do things work. We can continue to work in Sandbox while our current system is up for the public. Obviously providing professional development for the interface for all the teachers and for anyone who's going to be responsible for parts of the website, making sure they have the right training. And our plan is to have a Sandbox website completed in May. We would do the transfer over the summer, but the Sandbox will be completed in May, so that we'll be able to transfer over the summer. So that would be goal 1.
Can I ask a question? So the gather input, what's the mechanism that we're doing that? Who's sort of, in what way are we reaching out to teachers and getting input from them?
Sure. So right now, honestly, it's still being decided. We have talked about doing some surveys, and we've even talked about what that would look like. And we've also talked about, or is it better to utilize, for example, the teachers on the district technology committee and to send them back to their buildings and have them hold discussions. We honestly haven't made that decision yet. We've talked about both alternatives, but we haven't.
And then it's likely, I would imagine, that if there's an adjustment of expectations in terms of teachers posting on the website, that it may ultimately come back to the policy committee. We'll have to take a look at what we currently have and whether we need to sort of update in accordance with adjusted expectations and things like that. So, okay, so you will let us know to the extent that there's either policy or, I imagine the tech committee will be involved pretty much all along the way, but.
This was part of our conversations last week that we talked about as it related to whether it's a focus group or questionnaires, or also, I think.
And also defining a requirements document. Before we can go and select the platform, we have to understand what the functionality is that we want to offer, and then compare it against the various platforms that are out there and see who's the closest that will be a fit for our particular district. Every district has slightly different needs, and we have to see, we have a very large athletic program, we have many activities on our events, make sure calendars can support what we need. A search is also extremely important so people can find things. So we talked about various different things that would be required for the site, and then doing some sort of focus type groups, as Charles just mentioned, where we get some feedback. Can you find this information? Present them with 2 or 3 different views, and how do they logically think it should be laid out? So we get input and based on the requirements that we have.
Plus we plan for, these are my 2 tech guys.
I was
so-
going to say, I think you have,
I got so much tech
some
over there.
expertise over there we should definitely tap into.
But at our next tech meeting, we're hoping to do more of a workshop type of thing where everybody can kind of lay out their ideas and kind of present them to Paul and Brian as to what we think is that.
I said Paul took a lot of notes at our
He
meeting.
took a lot of notes at the meeting, yeah.
And I know your PTC parents will gladly offer some opinions
And-
about the
and
parent
we're- and
perspective
we're looking
too.
for that. We're
Yeah,
definitely looking for
absolutely. It's
I-
key, because, I mean, we want to launch a website that works for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they were helpful last year, actually, the parents, and they gave us some suggestions last year, so we'll go back.
It's exciting. Okay.
It is.
Any other questions on the first goal?
All right, then, the second goal. So this one is, in the strategic plan, we definitely heard from some community members about an implementation of full-day kindergarten. So what we're going to do with this goal is determine the feasibility of it and also the community support for it. We've definitely started work regarding this. We have been working with a demographer to analyze the district enrollment trends to see where we're going to be. Also, we're working with the architect to analyze our current facility use to make sure we're making the most of the use and what are options for us, because we know that it would require additional classrooms that we don't have at this point. And then using that information, bringing it certainly first to the Long-Range Planning Committee of the board, which I believe that meeting is next week. And talking about those options, what options are there, and then also to community members, the board at large and community members, as to brainstorm what are the possible solutions, and then how much do those solutions cost, how feasible is it to do all of that. And then it will go back, after getting some input, go back to the Long Range Planning Committee to determine, okay, this is what we've received, so what is our recommendation? What do we think? Is this feasible? Is part of it feasible? Is it not feasible because of the cost? We don't know where we're going to end up with this, but we need to look at it in an organized fashion and make that determination. So our plan is to, we've talked about this for a while, but our plan is to make a determination about that regarding that by December, and that if there are things that we can do, we'll have time for the second half of the year to do it, and if we don't believe we can do it, then we can make that announcement, and everyone can understand it, so they can plan better. That's goal 2. Anyone have any questions for that? Comments? Okay. All right, and the third goal is to provide additional in-district programs for students with special needs. Certainly working with Dr. Weissman and Andrea Lowe on this. So we started, actually, this was last year, you can't do these quickly, so identifying what are the needs for current students where we could offer other programs in order to keep more of our students in district. And we did identify programs, one particular program at the elementary level and one at the intermediate level, and working with parents to make sure parents were in agreement with us that these programs would be helpful for their children. Then it's always a question of, so do we have the appropriate facilities for such programs? So that was worked on as well. And the key always, hiring experienced teaching staff who are skilled in these areas, which was worked on over the summer. And then providing professional development. The elementary program, for example, we had an elementary program similar, but we wanted it to be a better program. So we actually got consultants who have this program in place in other places. And our whole team working with these students attended training over the summer. And that training continues throughout the course of the year, where they will come and observe the program to make sure we are staying true to the elements of the program that have proven successful. And then we did change some of the facilities to make sure that things were in order for these particular students. And monitoring the implementation of the program really is important. How is it working? What do we need to shift, if anything? Do we have more children entering the program because their needs have been identified? And then assessing along the way how this program is working for children. Does that mean we need to continue the program the following year, expand it, decrease it? It's constantly monitoring the needs of the children. They don't stay the same every single year. So Dr. Weissman and I have both visited both of these programs, the elementary and intermediate, a few times already this year. Believe they're off to a good start and believe they really are meeting the needs of some of our students who need special programs. So we've done a lot of work on that. We're very pleased with it so far.
How many students in each of the programs? Is that an unfair question?
No, it's not. So at the elementary level, there are 2 classes. I believe each has 6. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And in the intermediate class, that one at this point, I believe, has 3.
Right.
Yeah, 3 students. And that would be the intermediate one would be one where you would not have a large number of students.
Right.
Very specific need there.
Anybody have any questions about the third goal?
All right.
Okay.
We'll continue to work on them and give you updates on them as well.
Thank you. Moving on, I'd like to ask the board to approve the minutes of our board meeting held on August 29th, 2017, and the private minutes of the same date. Can I have a second, please? Charles, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Yep.
Brendan? Personnel, so I apologize, Mark's not here, and I'm not able to hook up to the internet. So if someone could just make a motion on Mark's behalf, I don't have the attachment, or maybe I do. Oh, I do. So I would make a motion on Mark's behalf that the board consider personnel items 1 through 24. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thanks, Brendan. Dr. Dolan, anything that we need to call out?
I don't believe so. It's still the beginning of the year, so there certainly are a lot of personnel items.
Any questions? Dana?
Michael Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes, I abstain from item 12.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Great. Facilities, Brendan.
We have our first meeting of the year on the 29th, and, yeah, no.
Anything new since our meeting 2 weeks ago, Dana? Everything's progressing at the auditoriums?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are progressing with all of our projects that are still underway, and, yeah, we're
Great.
still in good shape.
And I know one of the topics for the next facilities committee meeting is for us to look at our 5-year plan in terms of facility, and to identify facilities needs and upgrades, so,
Yes,
okay. Long-range planning, Mark's not here, but we do have a meeting next week.
Next week, right after the
Also on the
facility
29th.
meeting, yes.
Okay, anything else to report on long-range planning?
I believe we'll be sharing the information from the demographer and the architect, and discussing what options might exist.
Wonderful. Policies, so I would, Chris is not here, I would ask the board to consider policy item number 1, which is affirming the superintendent's decision on HIB incident 17E18. Can I have a second? Amy, thank you. Dana?
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Thank you. Curriculum, I would ask the board to consider curriculum item number 2 and approve the field trips and overnight field trips that were an attachment to the agenda. Does anybody have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Brendan. Does anybody have any questions? Dana?
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
And then, the next curriculum item is the presentation of the 3-year instructional technology plan. So I think Paul's
Second.
going to, let's wait till after he's done and then we'll see if we approve it.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. So our instructional technology plan, we did an update last year in the spring for the board and the community, and we started indicating the kind of focal points that we would have. So really discussions about what would go into the plan began at that point with teachers and our master technology teachers as well, and the board and administrators. It's come together so that now it presents itself. Oh no, I'll have to present it, but it's in our presentation here tonight. But I do want to thank the members of the board who have been involved in these discussions, and I'm sure in a few moments when we get to the technology portion of the agenda, Peggy will share some of our notes from that meeting, but it was a very vigorous discussion, and we're all very excited about the next few years. So I thank everybody who's been involved. So the focus of this presentation will be the new website, which is also a district goal, so there's some reference to that. We'll continue to leverage online learning systems, things like Google Classroom that we've been using, and the potential of a new website that we may bring in and might have learning management systems functionality. We'll continue to make progress in the teacher use of technology and measuring it, or marking the progress through the framework we talked about last week, and I'll get last year, and we'll get to that in a moment. And then lastly, we'll continue to monitor new innovations as they come out and pilot and implement them within the district. So our first goal then is to support teachers and administrators in the continued growth in the use of technology. So in year one, that means that we'll continue to look at this SAMRA framework, which is substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. I think we all have a good sense of what that is now, and maybe even the community, because they've seen a few references to that in a few different presentations. So what that is it's just a continuum of the way technology might be used in the classroom that goes from something as simple as using a laptop for word processing all the way up to doing something that is actually like a created interactive website that interacts with people outside of the district and stuff of that nature. So what we plan to do is continue to do the SAMR framework as a tool for articulation. For example, this February, one of the half-day sessions will be teachers getting together to discuss their lesson planning and units that they've developed that fall into the latter category, which is considered transformational, which is the M and the R. We'll also begin training in the use of a new website. So as Dr. Dolan mentioned earlier, as we transition, we'll then have to prepare both administrators and teachers for that eventuality. So year two of Goal 1 is that we'll evaluate teacher growth. We'll continue to use the SAMR framework. So we'll do some articulation that culminates in February this year, and then we'll continue to have those discussions, and administrators, supervisors will continue to interact, discuss through observations and evaluations of teachers how they're functioning within that framework and that continuum. And we'll also just continue the website management support as far as getting teachers up to speed. So next year, we'll be working with teachers to get them up to speed and to leverage fully whatever interface they'll be using as their classroom website. And we'll continue, so professional development for that, any kind of tech support they need along with that. So in year three, we'll hopefully we will have we'll have brought all of our staff along the continuum together as much as we can on that SAMR framework, so that you see very consistently the highest use of technology inside the classroom. Remembering though that there is always a place for the S, the substitution of using a word processor. But for the most part, what we're saying is we want transformational use of technology as frequently as possible. Also, there's indicators there about the professional development that would be linked to that. So that's the 3-year plan for Goal 1. We have a second goal, and that's to continue to enhance learning through the integration of technology. So that's a little bit more student-centered. In year 1, we've launched an initiative for grades 6 through 12, social studies classrooms in particular, where we have purchased enough Chromebook carts and devices so that each day all students grades 6 through 12 have access and teacher lesson plans. The teachers are prepared to use the technology every day for social studies. That was a department that was ready and wrote for some grants early on to start accumulating Chromebooks. And we feel that since every student does have grades 6 through 12 social studies every day, that we would hit all students with this opportunity for access. In addition to that, we're going to do what we do every year, which is monitor the need for devices across the district and around the grade levels, and continue to refresh. The fact that we've targeted a department, again, grades 6 through 12, for sort of a one-to-one in the classroom doesn't mean that we're going to stop focusing on all the other grades and content areas. So we'll continue to do the refresh as we've been doing. We'll create the benchmark instructional units that foster best practices in the use of technology. So we'll continue to articulate, and more supervisors, like let's say for the high school circumstance, we have this cohort of teachers that have been working at the highest level of using technology. They also had carts provided for them a few years back, and they're sort of like a best practice, almost think tank of how to use technology. And then we've been turnkeying that into departments, and supervisors have been working closely with them. So that kind of and that helps us helps all teachers design lessons and share that information so that we can begin to have instructional units that reflect that best practice, those best practices. And professional development will go along with that as well. In year 2, for goal 2, we're looking at doing that one-to-one hybrid, which is a good name for it, in addition to social studies, maybe in another content area. I think it makes a lot of sense to do it in an area that will cover a lot of ground as far as students are concerned. So it might look like something like language arts, which is another department that may be ready for that. But at the same time, we have to monitor a few things. One, we do have a lot of devices at the high school. So if we are equipping everyone with social studies, in social studies classrooms with devices, and we still do have a great deal of devices in carts that can be signed out, it may be that we're making that coverage. But for the most part, we're budgeting so that if we want to make one more move in one more content area, we'll be able to do that. So that in year 2, we may expand one more department. And then just to remind everyone that we don't forget about the other content areas and grade levels that we do refresh and continue increasing access to students as it's appropriate. And then we will continue to monitor and pilot innovative new practices. It's been very much, the environments, the technology, classroom environments have very much been connected to things like Google Classroom and collaborative work. You might recall way back when we started our initiative, Walls to Windows, it was all about devices and access, and it was all about all different kinds of devices. Is it going to be iPads? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And document cameras and all. We still need to supplement and complement Chromebooks and laptops as much as possible in classrooms, but we have seen that so much of the innovation and work that students are doing in classrooms really revolve around that collaborative environment and the functionality of a learning management system like Google Classroom. So we haven't, I guess that's a long-winded way of saying we haven't seen anything like sleek and new as far as a new kind of device come out. A couple of years back I saw something about holograms, but I don't know if we're going to have like holograms of globes in the classroom anytime soon. But if they're out there, Mark Friedman wants us to look at them. So we're going to look at them. So we want to keep in mind that there could be something that pops up that we really want to monitor, pilot, and then implement if it makes sense for a larger population. And we'll continue to establish best practices that are consistent and common in the use of our technology in the classrooms. And then goal 3, at the end of the year, so goal 2, at the end of the initiative of 3 years, we will also be looking at this device initiative where we went one-to-one hybrid in classrooms and determine what we would do next. Again, that's a budgeting thing. We've budgeted funds for that. We're expecting that could be a possibility, but we have to continually monitor to see if it will be necessary and if it's the best use of funds, because who knows, the hologram thing could be out there. We might want to put the money towards that. So we will continue to increase the access to technology, as I've said in the prior 2 slides, and the same thing, evaluating the effectiveness of what we've been using. So at the end of 3 years, we should be evaluating the effectiveness of all we've been doing, because we'll be working on the next 3-year plan. So really the challenge in any technology plan is to start, it really could be the budgeting and the forecasting, is not just the money, but the forecasting of the technology itself. I think over time what we start to see is that the teachers and we all become so familiar with, for the most part, the common practices are using technology, that a 3-year plan might not seem as earth-shattering. It's pretty straightforward, the same way we don't necessarily plan for how projectors were going to be used from year to year, but they were pretty exciting when they came out. So yeah, we'll continue to make sure that we're integrating as much as we can to enhance the instruction at a level that really leverages what students can do by having access to the technology. So that's it.
Paul, when you talk about creating instructional units, are you talking about within the context of our curriculum documents, just as we review them, or
Right.
are they separate?
No, I'm
documents?
speaking more of like, so when I think of the February in service, I picture a team of 3 or 4 teachers bringing to the table some of their lesson plans that they would like to incorporate technology in. So it wouldn't necessarily be units that appear in curriculum documents or the curriculum that we use. It would be teachers bringing their lesson plans and their ideas to a table, and then coming up with a way that the technology can be used at a high level. So we have Janine Gotko and Adam Peasy that are our master tech teachers. It's sort of what they do, except now the teachers will be doing it together instead of, sort of being directed or coached by someone. They'll be self-directing themselves and coming up with a best practice for the use of the technology. So that should be an exciting day.
And I know you've gone in years past to I don't conventions, maybe
Mhm.
there's a better word for it, where there's all that are technology focused, right? And so there have to be conversations going on, I would assume, across the nation about best standards and best practices and all of that. And so are you engaged, are we engaged in those conversations as a district, and are they useful?
Yeah, well, you may have heard in recent years me come back from Texpo, which is, sort of our go-to one every January, saying, it wasn't much going on. And that's because things have settled down into the kind of discussions we're having here. It's not, it was all driven by hardware and different kinds of new technologies. And, so it hasn't seemed like that in recent years. So even when I meet with my colleagues in other districts, it seems like what we talk about the most is, one-to-one. Are you doing one-to-one? To what extent? And then people talk about learning management systems, Google Classroom. We have to keep our minds open and flexible for things outside of Google Classroom, but the power and functionality that goes along with something which is pretty straightforward, Google Suite, I think Google Suites, that's another way to talk about what's available to students. But really, when our teachers are going out now for training, they're going to Google trainings all the time on Google Classroom and how to build a Google site, which is among our, that's on our radar as far as what teachers may have up for when we transition into a new website. So, it's unavoidable, but almost everything seems to be based on Google Classroom, Google Suites, Google Sites. Anybody who can link to that, if you're investing in other, technologies outside of Google, anybody who can integrate and embed into that with apps and different functions, they're part of that picture too. And when you go to one of these, I go every few months maybe, and it's a whole different, Google Forms. Well, it's different, 5 months later when you go to a Google Forms, workshop that focuses on Google Forms, because there's like 2 or 3 new applications of it, and then it integrates with some other programs outside of Google. It's nonstop. But it's all based in that kind of environment as opposed to hardware, I would say.
Yeah, and one of the things that we always discuss with Paul and Peggy and Michael is that, technology, you can make the 3-year plan, but you don't know what the disruptor in the market's gonna be. What's that new hot thing, that good thing, or something that may have been overlooked? As Paul points out with, the one-to-one, that was like a big thing, and as he says, he comes back and talks to us about where it's worked, where it hasn't worked, where it's better, not necessarily, or bring your own device. It really didn't catch on necessarily, but it's something that, as he said, the biggest key here is an open mind.
It seems like a 3-year plan is both too short and too long for technology.
Paul, are they in the social studies program? Is that supplementing the textbook, or is it replacing the textbook for the 6th to 12th grade where we bought the Chromebooks?
Right, it supplements. What's happening for the most part is, when I say learning management system, so the teachers will be putting assignments, and anything that you would picture going on in a classroom is now going on through the Google Classroom, so that students might be submitting their work, and the teacher can either check it separately or in real time pull up work and go over in class. They embed, a teacher can be online at a grocery store, see an article, because we know they're always going to be studying if they don't have, children that need to be picked up or something. But if they see an article now with Google Classroom as an example, just like if you see an article and you click on it and it goes right to Facebook and you've posted it, now teachers can click on it and it goes right to Google Classroom for people to use the next day, or or for an assignment. So that platform is what becomes the focus for all the exchange and interaction. And of course, what's great about it is it doesn't necessarily mean you don't have those vigorous debates and discussions in the classroom. It just gives you more opportunities to do it in real time without some of the basics like needing to make copies, but also building as really a classroom community. You can build onto whatever information is involved in any given unit of study or lesson, because people can bring it to the table, literally, to the desk, and put it right into the system. So,
Well, you can also add that interactivity to the classroom where you have, like, for example, they're simulating Congress or simulating the Senate. They can get involved and vote and see real time how results occur.
That's why it's a great subject matter to start and have that one-to-one, because it's, if anything, it's subject-wise, as far as learning, it's the most real-time subject matter there is.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I agree. Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it. Finance,
Do you wanna move to approve?
I don't think we have to approve it. Okay, am I wrong? Do we need to
We have
approve it?
I think it was just presentation.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, we will if you want us to.
No,
I
Um,
approve that Paul presented.
I would ask the board to approve finance agenda items 1 through 14. Can I have a second? Brendan, thank you. I would like to call out a couple of gifts. And first, a gift of $140 from the Juxtaposed Gallery and artist Tara O'Leary from the proceeds of her art exhibition for the Department of Visual and Performing Arts to be used to purchase instructional supplies. Also, a gift of $1,000 from the AXA Achievement Scholarship Program, matching the grant awarded to a Westfield High School student, Alexandra Jackman, to be used by the Westfield High School for professional development activities. And a gift of $500 from Mr. Richard Chang's employer, TIAA, matching his donation of the same amount to Roosevelt to purchase technology. So just want to thank those individuals and groups for those gifts. Any questions? Dana, is there anything we need to call out? Okay, go ahead.
Mike Phelan,
Yes?
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Gretchen Oldig,
Yes.
Peggy Astor,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
The next finance committee meeting, I think, is October 10.
It's October.
It's in October. Technology. Peggy.
Okay, well, I think everybody talked about everything all over the place that we discussed in technology, so I'm just gonna go. First Brian Walker came and gave us an update of summer projects, which a lot of them revolved around purchases that were made, that were brought into the schools and so forth. Tying into Paul's presentation, they did purchase 30 Chromebook carts, of which 8 of them were for the high school for the social studies department, and 6 of them were for the social studies department at the middle school. The balance were purchased for different schools throughout the district and so forth, and some of them were also purchased by our PTOs, and we'd like to thank them and acknowledge their efforts to help us, get our technology projects up to the levels that everybody's happy with. We discussed a little bit about pricing too, and Brian spoke to us that he buys all the Chromebooks directly from HB, so he feels he's really getting the best price on all the things that we purchase. Over the summer, we also purchased new laptops for our middle school teachers. They are on a 5 to 6 year lifespan of the computers that they have, and they're at the end of that period of time, and he actually thinks they're closer to 6 to 7 years that the middle school teachers have had their laptops, and they will be distributed to them in October once everything sort of settles down and they can, ask questions and so forth. We also installed 44 new interactive whiteboards and projectors throughout the district, and a core switch was replaced. That's what my 2 tech guys are over here for. Which they anticipate has a lifetime of about 10 years. And it was replaced over the summer.
And we have a backup now, right? There was
Yes, there's a
Yes.
backup, so if our network goes down, we will switch over to a backup network system, so we should hopefully never go down.
That was the last big infrastructure piece of the tech plan, if I remember correctly.
So with buying all these new pieces of equipment, the discussion revolved around, you know, how we keep track of inventory, who has what books and so forth. And Brian assured us that he has an inventory of all of the equipment that we have throughout the district. And also he keeps an aging schedule so that we can begin to plan a little bit which ones of our machines are getting to the end of their life so that we can budget going into the future for those. So Paul gave us a preliminary of his 3-year technology plan. And some of the discussion that was had around that had to do with, we discussed making sure through technology and all the other committees that we have, whether it be curriculum, facilities, that we're working together to have the right technology outcome. Making sure in curriculum, our programs are up to the level, that our curriculum, our courses and so forth are the courses that we want our students to have offered to them, along with, you know, the input in curriculum, you know, if there's any new needs in different classrooms, like Paul is saying, possibly language arts may be our next directive to look at putting the Chromebook classrooms in each classroom. So working with curriculum to make sure that we have the right technology that supports the curriculum documents. Along with facilities, because as all of these products come out and they're in the school, are facilities up to the right levels? Do we have the right amount of electricity and cords and plugs and classrooms, and what does future learning with all of these different devices look like, and how does it look in our schools? And making sure that we coordinate with the other committees from a technology standpoint. And last we discussed also, we talked about the website. I think we've touched upon it, that at our next technology meeting, which is October 27th, we are going to have more of a roundtable discussion, just getting everybody's ideas out there that's on technology and so forth, hearing back what other people have presented, what we have in our heads and so forth, just as a start for us for technology. And the last part is that I think all of you've heard that before my time on the board, there was a program that they called Walls to Windows, which was getting all these hardware things going and get the schools up to speed. Well, that's sort of getting to the end. So I really want the committee to decide what is our responsibility going forward and set ourselves goals and parameters that we're going to use to judge the technology committee overall. So over the next couple of meetings, we're going to be working on, as a buzzword, a mission statement as to, you know, what we really are planning on doing, and setting up some goals and objectives for going into the future.
I think that's a great idea. So the technology committee was not even a standing committee of the board until a couple of years ago, when it became apparent that it was sort of silly for it not to be, because technology was going to continue to be something that we would have to work with. So, right, I think that's a great idea. And I think
And just to add what Peggy had said, the technology committee is really transformational in what we're looking at each year. One year we're looking at switches or infrastructure, and then we're looking more toward the website, and then we look at communication, because social media is also becoming a part of it. So it's technology, but now we're touching all the various different types of committees across the board. We're touching curriculum, we're touching facilities, we're going to be touching infrastructure, and we're looking at how we can go, and communications is another area in particular. With the website's going to come up, but it's going to then have to tie into the various social media outlets that are out there, and how do we effectively do that? To, in a sense, what discussion brought about was, how do we promote our brand of the Westfield school system? That we know we're great, but make sure others are aware of that. And it ties around all the programs, not just curriculum, but athletics as well. What are we doing from athletics? What are the clubs that are out there? All the schools that are out there, and everybody has different needs, from the person that's in the Lincoln School all the way up to people in the high school, kids in the high school, I should say, or parents, or teachers, and so on.
okay.
Anybody's welcome to attend. They've been great. There was a good meeting.
Yeah, it was very good.
No, you can't.
No.
Only 4 of you.
That's
Four at a
right.
time.
That's right. 5.
Yeah, you can't have a quorum.
Then it's a board meeting.
Then it's a board meeting, right. But no, I mean, you're absolutely right. really all of our committees sort of do that. They all should bleed into each other, and so, but continuing to communicate among ourselves and then make sure that that information floats up here so that we get it out to the public is critical. So, anything, that's it? No, all done?
That's it. Next meeting is October 27th.
Great.
27th.
27th.
I thought you said 22nd. I was like, isn't that a Sunday?
Is it 20, I thought it was the.
No, you said, I thought you said 22nd
Oh,
at
okay,
first. I
it
was
was
like, wait a minute.
27th.
No Sunday meetings. We'll give you guys one day of rest, right? Notes for the record, I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record. Do we have any unfinished business we need to talk about tonight? Any new business? Liaison reports? Yeah, Amy, go ahead.
Just one, actually, the Roosevelt PTSO has had 2 meetings already this year.
Nice.
And a back-to-school night already, too, as has Edison. The new principal at Roosevelt's off to a great start. Mary S. Fendis has begun the school year, ready to roll, and the parents are ready to support her. So it sounds like the back-to-school night went really well. Feedback is the construction project is going well there, too. Most times kids don't even know what's going on, which is exactly the way we want it to be, so that's good. Everything's operating independent of the school day. So that's good. And I'm gonna try to stop by Festival and support the team. I think I misspoke, another one of my liaising opportunities. The special education roundtable is Tuesday the 26th, not Tuesday the 27th. So sorry, I got the date wrong. But it is in fact Tuesday night. The business presentation portion of the evening starts at 7:30, but parents often, if they have the time, come a little on the early side at 7, just to kind of get to know each other, particularly since it's the first meeting of the year and we may have some new parents who haven't been there yet. If you can get there at 7, I would encourage you to, but really drop in anytime and don't worry if it's, 7:35 and you haven't gotten there yet. Honestly, there's plenty of room and it's really a worthwhile event to come check it out. And then the other item on my calendar for September is the first general PTC meeting is next Thursday, the 28th, here in this room at 9:15 in the morning. And 9:15 is the president's, 10:15 is the general meeting, which is open to the public, and anybody is invited. It's a fascinating way to learn about what's happening at the other schools, and Dr. Dolan is always there as well. So, and we'll hear more about how we can help feed some thoughts into the technology to the website. So.
And I was at the Edison PTSO and just to share some similar comments. They had a very good-sized turnout of people. Crystal Marsh was there introducing herself, and they're looking at a variety of social activities and the air conditioning fundraiser, and just Dr. Bolton outlined all the activities planned for the year for the kids and focused in on also the anti-bullying aspect that we're promoting within our schools. And just everyone's very engaged, and I think they're very much looking to just expand and get more people involved, and that's one of the reasons why they have the social, to get more people involved.
Great. Brendan?
Yes, I attended a couple meetings for the NJSBA down in Trenton the last 2 Saturdays, so my weekends have been awesome. The first was the first of several meetings in crafting the new strategic plan for the organization. They're really pushing to try and get more board members involved, making their trainings easier, creating a network of direct outreach so you can go in and board members can easily communicate with either committees or their legislators directly, sort of a one-stop shopping kind of thing. They're also going to be putting together resources for vocational education. It seems to be a shift in Trenton to get away from the push that everybody has to go to a 4-year college. So interesting to see how that will ultimately roll out. And then, of course, everybody needs more funding and wants this 2% cap to stay in place. And nothing's really going to happen in Trenton until after the November elections, and probably not till January.
Thank you for representing us there. Even though it is a Saturday, we do appreciate it. I was at the high school PTSO meeting. It unfortunately conflicted with a curriculum meeting, so I don't have a full report, but the brief time I was there was some conversation, some facilities questions that I'll bring to the facilities committee meeting, make sure that the concerns are on the list. And they're off to a great start at the high school as well. Always an energetic and very busy group, so. No other liaison reports? At this point, I would ask if there's anyone from the public who has questions or comments. If not, then I would ask the board to approve the following resolution. Resolve that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, potential litigation, and be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential and the results of said discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Can I have a second? Brendan, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are in private session. Thank you very much.